Do you ever wonder how many tenses there are in Georgian? Because there are many verbs, like forms of verbs as well. So this is exactly what we are going to cover in today's video in our series. So, Georgian for Beginners. Hi, my name is Asha and I'm the owner of the publishing house in Zitni Caucasus Languages of the Caucasus, and I'm also author of study books, and for over 10 years already I have been teaching Georgian. And our recent book that I have also published, this is about verbs, so a little bit about the topic that we are covering today. So our book, ebook to be more precise, this is 50 Georgian verbs. Yes, and today we are focusing on the tenses. Yes, so how those verbs change exactly. So this is what we are going to learn from this video, and not only that, because you also know what are the most popular 5 forms, because we will cover today and we'll be focusing most on the 5 most popular forms in Georgian, the ones that you really need to be on, let's say, intermediate level, something like that. So what are 3 tenses in Georgia, and are there 3 tenses? So yes, exactly, there are 3 tenses in Georgian, and this is present, past and future. So it is quite similar, you would say, how it is with different languages as well. And for example, at least those ones where the tenses are in general. However, you may have seen in some study books, for example, that there are many more forms than just 3, isn't it? Yeah. So what is related with that? What's going on there in general? So there is something called in Georgian language like scripts. Scripts, this is mskribi, and those are the forms, let's say, of Georgian verbs that show, I would say, several pieces of information. For example, we'll dive into that a little bit. The script, it will show you the tense, it will show you who is doing something, who is acting, and the type of conjugation, and much more. That is why we do not call those forms tenses, because there are 3 tenses, but we call them scripts. And to make it a little bit easier and not to burden you with like complex linguistical terms and forms, we will just call them different forms of verbs. So there are, I would say, 11 in total, 11 forms of those verbs, but half of them are not so often used as those 5 ones. So 6 of them are not that often used and are not, I would say, required, especially if you are just starting, because we are focusing on the beginner. So till the moment like you are, let's say, pre-intermediate or intermediate, even like B1, something like that, B2 maybe, then this is the moment that it will suffice for you. So in addition to those 11 forms, those are, it's not like the just 11 forms, they are divided into 3 series. So to sum up, we have in Georgia 3 series, 3 tenses, and series are not equal to tenses, yes. And in each of those series, there are different forms of verbs, so those scripts. So what we have covered a little bit as well, like in the introduction of the book I mentioned in the beginning, so 50 Georgian verbs, we are covering as well the whole table, everything that you may find, and we walk you through different forms and how they are being used in detail, because in book you have just everything in one place, but in detail in different episodes we'll be step by step also covering that here to some extent when talking about the grammar, Georgian grammar. So let's go further with those tenses. So you see that the first and the second series, those are the ones that you will use the most, and there are also the forms, those 5 forms that are the most popular. So what's really of those 11 forms, what's worth to know in Georgian language, and why we are talking about those 5 forms. So those 5 forms are quite, I would say, useful to learn and to know, and to know how to use them actively on if you are like up to, as I mentioned, B1 level. So A1, A2, B1, so beginners and intermediate level. So this is the level and the moment that you would need to step by step learning those forms. Of course, you do it one by one, not everything in one place. I do encourage you not to study everything at once, because you will have like a huge mess in your head. It's better to just learn one form, start to use it, and then learn the next form, etc. About how to study Georgian in general, and how to study Georgian, some tips and tricks. We have separate mini course for you, which is free if you are also like sign up to the course, because this is email course. We are sending you lessons, so for that you can enroll as well. And the link, if you want to know how to study Georgian, if you're already thinking, okay, there are 11 forms, so how to learn them, so we have step-by-step ways and methods, and link for that you will find in the description as well. So we will go now through each and every of those 5s, just for you to have more or less understanding what we are talking about. So the first one, this is present tense, so ahlan deli dro. We are using, I would say, maybe a disclaimer, we are using in those videos the names, not very grammatical ones, but the ones that are commonly used, because this is something that you will see very often, and that is why, especially at the beginning, I do encourage you to learn exactly this way. So we have ahlan deli dro. So this is the moment when we are talking about the present, and moment that we are talking about the habits, or I would say general statements, so something similar to some extent as we have, for example, in English, present simple or present continuous. We just have one present form in Georgian, and the grammatical name I will just give you in case you are very curious. This is atsumko. But it seems rather hard to even pronounce for foreigners. That is why ahlan deli dro is much easier. So that is why we have showed you at the beginning this name, and ahlan deli dro also. This is how it will be very often described in Georgian in many study materials. So let's look at some examples. It will be, for example, Bankshi v muszab. Bankshi v muszab. I work in a bank. Or, for example, Asha mkvia. My name is Asha. Asha mkvia. Yeah, so you know, those are the general statements or something that is happening in the present. So the second one is so-called imperfect. We translate it this way in English, and sometimes it is introduced as a similar to past continuous. So in Georgian, it will be utsxveteli tsartsuli dro. Utsxveteli tsartsuli dro. So it is in general past form. So tsartsuli dro, it means tsartsuli, it means past, and it is like it is not finished. Let's say like this. We will say. So this is the form that we will be talking, of course, about the past. So we are looking already at the past tense, but either we do not know whether the action was completed, or we just do not care. This is not what we want to say, but because we want to say about the process, we want to say about the habits. So, for example, someone used to do something. So the examples, let's look at some examples. It will be probably easier for you. So, for example, I was going to the office by car. So it will be opisshi mankanit mivdiodi. So I was going, I had a habit, it was a process. Opisshi mankanit mivdiodi. Or, for example, the whole evening I was studying Georgian. It is, I don't know whether it's like positive for you or negative. Let us know in the comment whether it's like yay or nay for you. Send this like that. Whole evening I was studying Georgian. So it will be exactly like this. Mtel sachamos Vstavlobdi kartuls. Mtel sachamos vstavlobdi kartuls. Yeah, so this we have, it is like the past, but it has not, we are not indicating that I have finished, I was studying, it was a process. So this is when we use this, this form. So the third form, this is future tense. Simple as that, future tense. And in Georgian, it is momavali dro. Momavali dro. So this is quite similar to what we have in English in general. So we are using future tense in Georgian the moment we are speaking about the future, the moment we know that something will happen or we are planning something. So, and something has not happened yet. So that is how we use this. The other name, the more, let's say, grammatical name of it, this is mkobadi. And this is the words that you will not often see unless you are planning, for example, to study on the very advanced levels, or maybe you are planning to study Georgian philology. Fingers crossed for that. If you this is what you want. Yeah. So, but in majority of study books, you will find just the name Momavali Dro, and this is what we're going to use. So let's look at the two examples. So the first one, tomorrow, I will not work in a bank. So tomorrow is my day off, I'm not going to work, not at all. So in Georgian, we will say it like this. Chwal bankshi arvi mushaveb. Chwal bankshi arvi mushaveb. So this is how we use the future. So we are talking about tomorrow, that I will not do something. And the second example is in 2 days, so not tomorrow, but in 2 days, I will repair your phone. So it will be like that. Zeg shens telepons shevak etep. Zeg shens telepons shevak etep. So in 2 days, I will do something. Those are the examples for the future. And the fourth form, so almost the last one, the fourth form of the verb. So this is the fourth script, the form that we'll have, and this is the other series, those remaining two. So it is quite useful, very often used, and this is called aorist, and it is quite similar to past simple. So in Georgian it is called tzchvetini tsarsuli dro. Tzchvetini tsarsuli dro. So it is a past, because tsarsuli we have, it was past that already happened and is finished. So we are talking about something that happened in the past. We are not saying about the process, but something that was already completed. So some verbs have, for example, only one past form because they do not indicate whether it was a longer process or it just happened. And the good news is that, for example, those are the verbs to be or verb to be or verbs to have, about which we have already spoken on this channel, and you here see the links to those videos. So about this form, this is something that action is completed, and what is also useful to know, this form of verb is also used when we are using like imperative mode. So do this, do that, go there, etc. So in that situation also you may very often find this form of verb. About this I think we will have a video later on because this is not the beginner topic, but we will cover that as well. So examples now about those sentences. It will be Bevri kava davrie. I drank lots of coffee. Bevri kava davrie. I don't know whether this is a sentence that we can you can use, whether you drink lots of coffee or not, but you can of course change kava to chai, for example, so the tea. And the other, did you like this room, for example? Let's use different type of verb. Maybe you have noticed that we are using sometimes different types of verbs, different types of conjugation, just for you to look at different forms. So it will be like that. Mogec ona es otachi. Mogec ona es otachi. So did you like this room? So something that has already happened. Either you have liked it, it is the process is finished, you have already the feeling in you. Let's say like that. So the last, the last but not least, this is so-called optative form. So this is something that we do not have as such as either tense or any other mood, let's say, in English or any other language, I think that I know. But this is optative, this is how we call it in English, and in Georgian this is meorek avshirebiti. So that's how it is, and this is the script that is the best way, I would say, is to just remember in which situation we use those. So we will just cover some of the examples. So you use it when you talk about wishes or assumptions, for example. And you will also find it in the phrases like that. I want to do something. So in this particular case, I want, it will be present, and to do something, then we can use this optative form as a verb to do, for example. Or I plan to do something. So I'm going to do something. In those situations, the verb that we are going, like in this case, to do, I'm going to go, I'm going to write, etc. So those verbs go, write will be in this exactly form, this optative. So that is why it's quite useful, as I mentioned at the beginner's level, just also to learn it. And the other situation that I think we often use as well, this is the negative imperative mode. So do not do that. We said a little bit earlier about the form of saying that someone has to do something, and this optative we are doing when we are saying about the negative, like we are forbidding someone to do anything. So let's look at some examples of that. Let's start with the first sentence. It will be, for example, like that. The example you may use in every place almost in Georgia. So it will be Minda vichido ori Vashli. I want to buy 2 apples. Minta vichido ori vashli. And so to have the imperative, it will be do not do it. And we will say it then argaketo. Argaketo. So it is different than it was the form of this aorist here. So those are the 2 situations. Okay, we have covered 5 main ones. I hope you liked it. I hope it is like a sprint a little bit through those informations, but to give you perspective what we use when exactly. So I wanted to finish this episode of the Georgian for beginners with information. Okay, great. I have given you lots of information, I assume, but what to do with that? Yeah, so that is probably the question. So how to really learn those? So in I would say the one of the options, first of all, let's start maybe with that. One of the options is to learn verbs in exactly this order how I have just given it to you. So you start with the present, then you go through imperfect form, then you study future, then you study aorist, and then you study optative. So the reason for that is because maybe you have seen it as in other our videos, or maybe in our shorts, for example. So in this order, it is much easier just to remember how exactly the form changes. Yeah, so that is that. And how to, when you know, for example, 1 or 2 forms, the best is just to learn exactly first in this order, as they are transforming. And this is also how we have given you those 50 verbs I mentioned that we have in our ebook. So in ebook 50 Georgian verbs, this is exactly also in this order, plus you have their examples, plus you have there also cases, so how the noun changes as well, because this is the different area that we'll be not covering today, just to not to have 2 hours long video for you. But as I mentioned, it is very useful just to start the first 1 tense or 1 verb form, then to practice it, have some kind of vocabulary for you to use with that, and then later on to go to the next one. And about that, we have some tips and tricks and some rules and methods in our mini course about how to study Georgian. So for that, you can sign up as well. Okay, So let me know whether you like videos like that when we go, I would say, helicopter view, not to just go deeper and deeper in one topic, for you to have a little bit perspective. Let us know in the comments whether you like videos like this, or maybe you have some additional questions with regards to the tenses or the verb forms that we have covered. And if you struggle, like you do not know really which form of verb is when and which tense, etc., check our ebook 50 Georgian verbs. There are 50 most commonly used verbs, especially at the beginning when you are starting, also already written in all the forms that we have covered today. Yeah, exactly like that. You may either leave our comments under this video, or you may send us link as well when replying, for example, to our newsletter, the Caucasian Mail. So all the links that I have mentioned, as well as the link to today's episode in written, because all our episodes are also in the form of article. This is everything in the description, so you will find it below. Thank you very much for today, and see you in the next our lesson or in other video materials. Bye bye.